So into Champions League,
Yeah.
you see Malsaha being banned out.
Yep,
So
makes sense. I mean, Sencux just had a monster game on that last game. I mean, not like a monster game, I should say, but he set up his team really well and was always able to set plays up, even though he wasn't like the primary carry.
Right, and also Sencux's Caston is also a thing you have to think about. And the Jace ban as well as a flex 2 mid lane and top lane will be banned away, aimed at Splice. So a lot of hate towards those solo laners. And Nidalee and Lee Sin, so looking to ban away Svenska, and exactly what they were saying on the analyst desk. Don't let him get ahead early, don't let him get into your jungle.
Yeah, I still think the Kassadin ban is a bit interesting, since we haven't really seen anyone else pull it out, and we can assume that he has some success on it at least, because it's getting banned in pretty much every game. So,
what do you think about Kassadin versus Syndra? Because, I mean, if the plan was to first pick Syndra...
The problem with Kassadin is that he doesn't have any wave clear, so he can trade quite well in lane whenever he has his Q up, whenever he has his E up, because he gets that magic damage shield, and then he just trades really well with it. But Syndra usually just pushes in Kassadin, so it shouldn't be too big of an issue. He can, Syndra can just push Kassadin in and then roam around the map. All he needs to do is just stack potions basically and use them whenever he gets harassed. So I don't think it should be too big of an issue. So I think it's interesting that they're gonna keep banning out Kassadin.
Has been a pickup of Karma here, and also the Elise. Karma, of course, can be a flex to the mid lane. I remember you guys were talking just in the green room earlier about like talking about Syndra and like what you can pick into it. Out of the mid laners left available, is there a favorable matchup that not necessarily can beat the Syndra, but will be fine in that matchup?
I think since Aurelion Sol is open, that's obviously the champion they should be looking at right now, because he just seems to be very, very, very strong, and he is kind of very easy to use for a team, because what he does in lane is just he walks up to the minions and he just wave clears, and it's really hard to actually counter it because it's so oppressive to play against, and his base damages are just so high, so he can impact the lane a lot with that pick. Vladimir is another pick because he can just stack magic resistance, but I don't like it too much because again Syndra will just push the wave and then she can roam around the map, so she will actually usually have the pressure against Vladimir, where Vladimir will just slowly sustain all the time. So, but it is a fine pick. It's very strong in team fights, especially if it can get on top of Jhin and Syndra, since they're both quite immobile carries.
Right, I mean, Vladimir is one of the picks that when it tends to fall behind versus the Syndra, it can look pretty bad, but if you're able to even get like an early kill or something, it starts just not, like Syndra can't do anything to you. You can pull the ultimate, you build MR first, you build a health pool, and in general, it's kind of a swing, I wouldn't call it a swingy matchup, but just it starts looking really bad for whichever side falls behind. And recently in the tournament, Vladimir seems to have been falling behind. I think his win rate is pretty bad overall, so be interesting to see if Splice can pull it off.
Yeah,
the good thing with Syndra is that even if she falls behind, she actually farms really well, since her Q and W is way too easy to farm on the champion. So what you do in Syndra when you fall behind is just try to farm as much as possible. Actually similar to when you get ahead, you also try to farm as much as possible, but you can't really look for the solo kills if you fall behind. Whereas if Vladimir falls behind, he can't go pick up those 3 small waves that you will always see Syndra players go for. He needs to kind of stay in lane and just sustain his way back up, so Syndra will have a lot of pressure. If Vladimir gets ahead, I don't think he has too much pressure because he doesn't build the most damage early on in the game, so Syndra will always be able to farm it out.
How much do you think the jungler is going to influence that mid lane matchup? Because we have them locked in, we have the Elise who early ganking jungler, Rek'Sai as well can get involved in that mid lane.
I think Splice has a better 2v2 in that in this scenario, but I don't think TSM has to play around mid too much. Svenskan can just donate his blue buffs to Bjergsen, and Bjergsen can just shove up, and they just need to keep some pink wards up on the map because they will have mid lane pressure, and then they should be able to do fine. I think Splice, if they ever land a Elise Cocoon onto Syndra, it will be very hard for Bjergsen to actually survive that, because he's probably not going to go with cleanse. You want that Ghost versus Vladimir.
So we have the full composition locked in from TSM now. The Gnar, of course, will go into the top lane. Taking this composition as a whole, how do you feel about it, Mark?
I actually like it a lot. It's kind of the style that TSM has been playing, a little bit more pick-oriented. So you have the Jhin to CC some people as well as the Syndra. The Rek'Sai, I mean, they need some kind of front line. The Gnar as well works with it. I think overall it's pretty balanced. And it's just about how they're going to play the early game, because it's been a little bit snowbally in terms of like when one team falls behind, they start struggling a lot. And so I don't think TSM will necessarily play around mid too much. It can be hard to play that way. So, well, I mean, with the Syndra versus Vladimir, you can try and get on it, but I think they might look more to play around top side because Aurelia Gnar is very snowbally.
Yeah, I think the only way Svensson can really impact mid is if Bjergsen chunks out Sencux and then he wants to hit the tower quite a lot to maybe push that first tower goal, then Svensson just needs to be there for the counter gank for Elise. And he can't do much more than that because if he ganks the Vladimir, he's just gonna pull and get out. I mean, he's not really gonna get anything done, and Rek'Sai doesn't have the most damage of the junglers. So,
is there any significant advantage in terms of draft, or is this both teams playing what they're looking for?
I favor TSMs a little bit because other than the Aurelia on the top side, they have some more of the pressure early game, so it's on them to make plays and try and snowball it. The Syndra versus Vladimir obviously being in Syndra's favor early and maybe being able to get up on the map and influence some other lanes. So I personally like TSMs a little bit just because I prioritize the early game advantages that they might be able to get.
Yeah, I'm actually quite concerned for Aurelia in top lane because we haven't seen Aurelius do too good against now, especially early on in the game. With Aurelia, you want to get that lead and then you want to push it all the time. But since Syndra pushes earlier and Rek'Sai has the global pressure, then it's hard for Aurelia to play aggressive onto now because Syndra and Rek'Sai can just go up there and just kill Aurelia whenever because she's going to be stuck under her tower. So just time it with a Mega Gnar and then maybe we can just see TSM focusing Wonder in this game and it might snowball from there.
Yeah, I think the volatility of the top lane matchup between Gnar and Aurelia is kind of the reason you saw Aurelia fall off. From behind, she like isn't a tank and she's almost like an assassin where she wants to like dive in and like start messing up
jumps in and dies.
Yeah, mess up your backline. So when you fall behind, it's really rough. Even against Gnar, Gnar stacks health early, which is one of the best things you can do versus Aurelia. So it's even that matchup, even though it is favored towards Aurelia, if the Gnar gets ahead, it starts looking kind of mediocre for her as well. It's not one of the things that she's always in control of the matchup the way you see like a Gnar Poppy, where like usually Gnar is always going to have pressure in that matchup.
Just in terms of a wider question coming into this game, of course, Splice just came with a win. Bjergsen didn't do so hard earlier into the day. Do you think these two teams will play differently, at least in the early phase of the game, considering Splice's momentum and TSM maybe not playing the same style that they usually do?
I do think Splice could look to play a bit aggressive in the early game. You see Vladimir started with boots, so he might just want to walk up to Bjergsen and see if he can dodge some abilities and just spam Q all the time, and then Elise could invade the blue buff of Rek'Sai to kind of like deny Syndra from getting the first blue buff so he can't harass Vladimir out of lane. Besides that, I think that Splice has a comp where they just need to hit like small power spikes like Aurelia getting Sheen, Vladimir getting some magic resistance, and then Ezreal getting the tier. They have small things like that they need to hit, where for TSM they don't really have any power spikes like that early on, where TSM they can just play, like they can base whenever they really want to and then just pressure Splice. So if TSM plays really well around base timings, then I think they can get a lead.
The other thing I like about putting Bjergsen back on the Syndra as opposed to the Zilean is like, one, it's a little bit more of an individual playmaker and it's a little bit simpler in terms of how it plays with regards to your teammates, and by itself it's a lot more of a lane bully champion, so you control the pace of it, and then you don't need to worry about like, oh no, I got Karma shielded at the wrong time and now my ult didn't proc. Like those like synergy issues don't really exist with Syndra. It's like I hit a stun follow up, stuff like that.
You can already see the boots paying off for Sencux. He's dodging a lot of Bjergsen's W's and Qs, which is quite difficult to do, so he doesn't even have to spam his potions early on. He can just play a bit aggressive.
How is that going to affect the next couple levels? Because he's still getting shoved in, but does it mean he can just stay in lane longer?
I mean, the only difference is that if Bjergsen gets pressured a bit more, he can't CS that effectively. As you already see, that Sencux is going to get a CS lead if he last hits correctly. And he missed the cannon. But
cast a curse.
Rip.
But yeah, I mean, that's how you're supposed to get the lead. Right now he has free CS advantage, and hopefully he's not going to push this too fast and just let it slow push back to Bjergsen. Then he's going to lose a few more CS, and then maybe he can get a base in for some magic resistance. Bjergsen has a pretty good base in Syndra. I think picking up the second one string against Vladimir is really good because it pressures him a lot more, and you're allowing yourself to put out a lot more abilities. You usually see in some other matchups that Syndra just farms to 900 gold, and then she buys last chapter, and then she plays aggressive after that. But now he can play aggressive all the time, combined with that second blue buff.
So that's what I'm going to be interested in, because Bjergsen often likes to stall the lane out like in front of his turret and make his enemies exposed, and with the blue buff you often look more to just push and constantly shove. So I'm interested to see how Bjergsen decides to play this matchup. So the way he's going to... Ooh, he interrupted his recall.
Yeah, that's a really good interrupt, because now Sencux can base and get early magic resistance, so Bjergsen is gonna out-pressure Sencux quite heavily. Besides that, I mean, if Sencux actually got that base off, he would have a really good start going into this game. He didn't get denied any CS in the early game. But yeah, Bjergsen is just spamming his abilities. I don't like that too much, because Venscon is not like in a position to actually invade the enemy jungle. They're not in position to dive anywhere. So Bjergsen is just looking to get vision in, and he actually placed his ward quite defensively at the raid camp. But if Bjergsen had pushed this slower, then... they're fighting with Elise and Rek'Sai.
Yeah, Svenskeren bumped into Trashy in the jungle and just
less of a fight, and Trashy just killing him, But Trashy has been caught now that he like overextended into the river, and Bjergsen was able to roam down. And Bjergsen was on the top sides of the lane as well. That
red buff's actually really annoying for Vladimir, because with the boot start, you're focusing so much on dodging Syndra Qs and stuff like that, and with the red buff, it just applies a slow. Yeah, it just makes it easier for Bjergsen to win this lane.
Another thing I want Bjergsen to do now, since red buff gives him health regeneration, he should be looking to actively go under Sencux tower and just harass him out. Don't care about taking 1 or 2 tower shots, it really doesn't matter, because he's never going to die. He knows where Trash is going to be, because she just died. So if he tanks a few tower hits, it's not going to matter because of the red buff health regeneration.
But getting a bit of harassed there. Okay, we can just see what happened. He just literally walked into Trashy. He just happened to be in the bush there.
That's of last game.
That's a little sad to see, because they had just invaded his top side and got so much vision down. You know Trashy's not up there. It's like, if you want to invade, I think you should just meet up with Bjergsen, since he has so much vision or mid control. He can come and join you at any point.
Yeah.
I do think this favors TSM though, because of that red buff trade, and they obviously got assists and the kills too. So, I mean, the red buff is just really huge because of the auto tag and the health regeneration. So
as well as the kill going on to Bjergsen. I mean, if there's one person you want to get the early kill.
So you're saying it's planned that he was just planning on dying and then giving double buffs and a kill to his mid laner? I mean,
he did know that. We're probably gonna see Trash die again.
Unleash power. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Sencux can't do much. That's one of the most frustrating things as Vlad, because he doesn't have his first base yet, so he can't really just walk up and face check Bjergsen. He's gonna lose that trade, and he can't really do anything to help the Elise as a Vladimir. So
yeah, no real peel. You can maybe shoot out your E as a slow, but that's not gonna do much when your Elise has no flash and it's not close to your turret at all.
Yeah. So is he looking for a back like in the near future? Because he's still hanging around now and just kind of...
The problem right now is that Vladimir can never base and have a good base timing. He missed that window because he didn't get his base timing off. So whenever Syndra bases, then Vladimir can base. So it looks to be this many waves. After Sencux cleans this, he's gonna go ahead and base himself.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably gonna get the cowl as his first item, but Bjergsen is up a decent chunk of gold now with both the kill and assist. Yeah, you see 500 gold. And it's not like a monumental lead, but significant.
One thing he can go for is just go for Mercury Threats and then go for the Negaton Cloak after that to really just stack a ton of magic resistance. But yeah, he went for the cowl instead. I've seen a lot of Syndra's Vladimirs do that recently, because they can decrease the stun duration. So if Syndra ever decides to follow up on her own stun and then ultimate right after, then Vladimir can just pull right away, and he actually can't die. This way, he can't really pull the Syndra ultimate if she hits the stun.
Do you think the increase in Merc Shreds on Vladimir also has to do with more mages being in the top lane, like Kennon's Rise, Rumble's Rise? I think the double Merc Shreds, because those both also bring magic damage, it helps a lot.
Yeah, I think Merc Shreds would be really good this game, because they have the Jhin Snare, even just the slows from the ultimate and the traps. They have the Braum stun, even Exhaust. They have Na. Like Na has his stuns too, so I think Merc Shreds would be really good. And Sencux, how he played the early laning phase, he looked really confident in just dodging out Bjergsen's abilities. So I would have liked to see that, just to give a bit more mobility and maybe see if he could follow the Syndra roams a bit more whenever they're coming.
That'll probably happen soon as well. I do have a quick question from Twitter coming in from Jose Ernesto CS, who says, why Flash Ghost instead of Flash Ignite or Flash TP? And that's the same for both mid laners.
I mean, for Vladimir, you want to stay on top of the enemy champions for as long as possible. That's how you kill them. If you take Ignite, you can't really stay on top of them. So it's just really simple. You go Ghost to just be able to get to the backline. For Syndra, it's kind of the opposite, where it can work in both ways, but if Vladimir runs at you, you kind of want to run away. If you Ignite him, it's not really going to help you survive. And you can put out a lot more damage, both whenever you have disengaged successfully from Vladimir running at you, you can also more quickly rejoin the fight afterwards. So it just gives a lot more teamfight presence to go for the Ghost. If you go Ignite, it's mostly for lane, and it's if you play against a champion that has some kind of spell wham or like way to sustain themselves, which is like obviously Vladimir has that, but he's gonna stack magic resistance, so you're never really gonna kill him. So if you play against a champion like Ari, she has a passive which you can completely deny by just using Ignite, and then you can kill her.
Gotcha.
So it's more if it's assassin-like matchups, then Ignite is more common than Ghost.
Yeah, and TP, I mean, neither of them benefit a ton from it. Neither of them are like TP playmaking champions, really. And then, I mean, Vladimir maybe a little bit, but Ghost is just so much more useful for sticking into a fight. And then Syndra, obviously, you're not going to TP flank or anything. And neither of them really need it for lane, where you want to like shove early base, get an early TP in, something like that. You sometimes see that from a Karma or something like that also, but not as much here.
I think TP on Vlad is okay in some scenarios. Is if you have a really tough laning phase, like versus Syndra, if you have a tough time getting a good base timing, then having TP is good for helping out with that. And if you have Sivir in the bot lane, which can kind of use her ultimate as a Ghost, then it's okay to go TP and then just not go for the Ghost. But obviously, there's no Sivir in this game, so.
So this is kind of what we were talking about, why it's hard for Aurelia when your mid is going to be down pressure, because they're just so free to roam up like this anytime they want. Now that Wonder has no flash, this is going to be such an easy kill for them to pick up.
Yeah, second time Bjergsen's come top lane. This time actually results in a kill, and that will again go to Svenskeren. In an ideal world, is it better for it to go onto Svenskeren or one of the solo laners?
Obviously the solo laners. I mean, Rek'Sai don't really benefit from a bunch of gold. He's already quite fed right now, so.
The only time I'd ever be kind of okay with it is if he's like your one frontliner, and it's like you get him a couple early kills, he can kind of become this unkillable mess. But they have a Gnar, they have a Braum, they have two people who really want to snowball in Syndra, and Gnar can take over a game. So I think it'd be much better, obviously, to get on the solo laners there. But don't be too greedy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's good that they got the kill. I think it's good that Bjergsen didn't waste his ultimate trying to get the kill, because it was 100% secured. So there's some small things there. And Sencux has his Spirit Visage, but I don't think he's going to be able to do a lot in the lane before he gets some more levels. He needs some levels so his E starts doing a bunch of damage, and that's when he can start pressuring the Syndra. Right now I think Bjergsen is a bit too fed, and he's just going to keep shoving up the lane, and then I think he's just going to keep roaming top, because it's such a free kill every single time, and then they can maybe get the first tower, or they can get Rift Herald. I think the Rift is actually really strong
I think that'd be super good. It's always hard to get Rift Herald because just how long it takes to kill, and the fact that your duel lane's usually on the bot side, so you don't have as much ability to tank it and deal damage to it. And so it's super hard to take, but if you are able to get it, it is one of the best items for snowballing a top matchup, because it lasts so long. So even though it's great, obviously, for trading in general, but the fact that you're always going to have that trade advantage for the next 20 minutes is what makes it so useful.
We'll see another roam coming up from Bjergsen. The Ghost popped as well. Spencer into the bottom lane. Copy safe, but Mickey X, unfortunately, is just a poor Karma. We'll try and buy a little time with Flash, but no, he's dead.
I mean, this is why, like, I don't see why Splice would give Syndra. This is literally what Syndra and Rek'Sai can do. They just, I mean, Rek'Sai can just ultimate across the map wherever Syndra wants to roam to, and they just go pick up a kill with the Syndra ultimate. It's not like what Splice should be looking to do is fighting off the Syndra, so she has to base, so they have some knowledge of where she's gonna go, because she's just gonna keep on roaming, and Vladimir is not a great roaming champion. Like, if you can make people stick under the tower for bot lane, like Vladimir is really good at diving bot lane, because it's two people and you just get Hemo-Plague onto two people, gives a bit more sustain, right? But he can't do it in this matchup because he's just gonna get out-pushed.
I think that was a bit of a flub by TSM there. They had the ability to get first turret, but they went for a blue buff steal, and as a result, they lost the push advantage, and Aurelia and Elise were actually able to pick it up. So not only did they not grab Dragon, which would have been obviously great because it's Earth Dragon, but they didn't even get the first turret gold. So that's, they're going to get Earth Dragon now, but it's not ideal. I don't know why you would prioritize blue buff over first turret, because Splice had done a good job going for the play on the opposite side of the map. The Elise just went up there to push the turret down, and Vlad also joined them. So I think that's a small mistake by TSM. It's not like the end of the world, but
sure.
I do think that can tie into the communication issues they had before. Like, it's also Hansa's job to communicate that, okay, you guys need to go for the turret, don't go for the blue buff because his tower is gonna fall, right? So it's kind of like, I just think TSM has some communication issues with that. You saw it in the last game too, where they don't use Sicilian ultimate well. They like were unsure about when to go in with the cannon flanks and stuff like that. So.
What do you think about that play that just happened mid? Do you think they should have done that earlier from Splice's side, or is this a good time?
I don't think they could do it earlier because they don't have any pressure in mid lane. Because Bjergsen roamed and then he stuck around at Splice's blue buff, then...
Sencux is just up there. I don't know what he's doing. I mean, they have decent ward coverage in the bot river.
Imagine if he had Merc threats to like deny the stun. That would be amazing.
Oh, there he goes. He just purchased them.
Yeah.
Maybe could have got those first.
The thing is, like, he's never going to die in lane if you go Merc threats first or if you go Spirit Visits first. It's going to be the same stuff. Like, he's not going to die. He has too much magic resistance, and Syndra is going to look to roam. So
right. You die in the lane from the CC and the follow-up from teammates, not from the 1v1 damage of a magic damage dealer.
So, but yeah, I mean, now he has Merc threats, so whatever. But yeah, the reason they were able to do that mid play before was because Bjergsen was sticking around where he shouldn't be sticking. He was greedy for a kill onto Karma or whatever he was looking for. And he is...
Speaking of being greedy and sticking around
this time.
I think he has something to prove in this game. I don't think he's happy with last game, and that's why he starts to do things like this.
It also feels like they're dumping all the eggs into the Bjergsen basket. One is going to have to burn his flash as well.
I don't think that's a good mindset to have because Doublelift's actually, you know, he's on track. He's got a kill and 2 assists. They got the turret. I don't think they need to be tunneled on the mid lane. They just need to be playing smart as a team and going for these kind of pickoffs that their comp is really good at. And the other reason that they were able to go for that play mid, just to touch on it one more time, was just because when they went bot side, TSM, to make that play, Splice went top side and got control up there. And then once they have control, Aurelius was finally able to move in that side of jungle, same with Elise, because before Elise was being held down by Bjergsen's pressure. So now they're able to kind of come from behind and get force that flash out.
Also, another reason they were able to come from behind is that Bjergsen was waiting around and trying to get that pick, and something happens again, so I still can't finish that. But
you'll get there eventually.
It's fine. We don't care about these kills. Just Trashy dying again.
I think it's the game telling us to stop talking about it.
Yeah.
But it's like he should be back in mid lane and basically just shoving out the lane first. As long as Bjergsen can shove out the lane first, then they can never go behind him because he can just walk away. If he's not able to shove it out, he's going to be zoned away from a minion wave and his own tower, and then he can't do much. So it's just important for him to be in the lane whenever there's a minion wave. That's basically it.
All right, we got it. What do you think about that last trade? Because I saw Bjergsen, he was comboing Mickey X, but then he like finished him off with the ult when he was on like super low HP.
I think this is actually really good for Splice. The longer you can get these kind of trade kills where everyone's just getting gold, I think it favors them. It would have been really nice for them if they were able to get this mid turret, but just the fact that he traded kills evenly in a game where TSM has all this pressure early and things have been going well for them, it's super good to just keep stalling this out. And this just looks like a bit of a cool bit of Clown Fiesta where everyone's coming in from random sides. Doublelift gets jumped on by both solo laners while Bjergsen and the rest of the team tunnel on, finishing off some other people, and Hanser's just alone the top side, nowhere near this fight.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is a problem with their communication. They go for a fight that they're not ready to go for. They're rotating someone, they're like, okay, let's catch out Splice, and then Splice just TPs in their back while Hanser does not have his TP up. Like, you shouldn't be going for those kind of plays if you can get TP'd on, especially when I really just finished the power spike. It's just like, it's just basic kind of things. Like, they can go for it, but they shouldn't overchase.
Yeah, I think the fact that Aurelia is hitting a number of her power spikes is a really big deal. She's getting close to finishing 2 items when Hanser is probably going to be on 1.5. And as the turrets start to drop and the lanes get longer, it becomes harder and harder to play these matchups where you're the one disadvantaged because it gives so much more chase potential, more gank room. The map, as it opens up, tends to get harder to play the losing side of matchups.
Who's this going to benefit though? Because like a lot of the kills, a lot of the gold going over to like Wunder, Trassy's getting a bit as well, but Bjergsen and also Sven are like primarily the guys with kills in this game. Who's that going to benefit in the long run? Is Aurelia going to get to the point where you can just dive Bjergsen over and over and over?
The more kills that's done to Vladimir and Aurelia, the better it is for Splice, because Vladimir in these mid-late game teamfights, whenever he finishes some items, is just going to take over the game. If he can get an ultimate onto the Syndra and the Jhin, then they actually don't have a whole lot of things to kill the Vladimir. What's called Rek'Sai barely does anything to Vlad. Bifrost only has the exhaust. Besides that, okay, Braum is great because she can block the Vladimir E with your shield. So he needs to be on top of protecting Bjergsen and Doublelift, and then he also needs to be able to exhaust Sencux. The problem for TSM is that they also have Wunder that's like really fat right now, that can dive on top of TSM's comp, and then they have Ezreal that can follow up with his long-range abilities, and the Karma's shield like speed up. All Splyce needs to do is just dive on top of TSM whenever they have the items. So I think TSM should be pretty careful with the Aurelia and the Vlad.
Right, as one of the problems TSM has is like they have a lot of burst, which can be good against Vladimir, but if you ever, let's say, don't kill him, it becomes next to impossible if he survives basically your first round of damage.
Like cool, Sonya's.
And as we see, Wunder gets picked off in the top lane. So if Sencux keeps being able to get his farm, get his items, it gets worse and worse for TSM because it's so hard to burst that Vladimir down if he gets his pool off and his ult and he gets that 1,000 health back and you don't have any healing reduction on him, which they have some already with the Nomicon, but Kobe gets... Oh my god.
Didn't even hit the W and he just died from the ultimate and everything else there. Svenskeren chasing after Trashy, he protobelt to the way, but double kill for Bjergsen. He's still pretty big. I forgot about that since... yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as much as we're talking about how bad it can be for TSM if Splyce, the Vladimir starts getting on track, Bjergsen's already on track.
Yeah.
And as you can see, he can just delete anyone who gets close to him if they don't have any tank or MR. And
I think this is also a problem with Splyce because Trashy keeps getting caught out in this weird position, and then Kobe gets caught out this time around where he's Ezreal. All he needs to do is sit back and just cue the minion wave ultimate if TSM really pressures it. But right now, Splyce just getting caught out. First Wunder, and then Kobe, and then they have like some half... I can't say that on stream, but they have some not so good engage, and they just keep like...
They just basically fought 4v5. They started that fight off so disjointed. I mean, it was basically the two solo laners, and that was it. And
like they need to just calm down, take it slow, don't get caught out, and just like play to their strengths. Right now, they're just kind of walking in and dying, which is what TSM kind of needs them to do. So this also like means that obviously Syndra is massive now. She picked up 2 or 3 kills from that.
Yeah, I think in the last like 5 minutes, maybe even less than that, like the last 2 trades, she just got most of her kills. So
she's sitting on basically 3K. So whenever Bjergsen gets into base, he's going to be a very happy Syndra.
I think that was just the ult that just 100 in there.
It's just like TSM will have such a hard time dealing with the Vladimir as long as they stop dying and as long as they stop feeding the kills.
This isn't a replay, by the way.
Like, why would you walk up? You have your sweep up and you know they just push 2 towers in mid. Like, they are gonna have wards on the mid lane. Don't walk straight up there.
It's literally like one of the most common things you do. Take the turret, drop a ward on top of it to see what they're gonna do afterwards, so you know where to start distributing your players after their recalls. And Splyce just isn't playing intelligently. They had started losing control, and then we saw TSM start trading kills, and then if they were able to just kind of slow down from then, it would have been fine. But then we saw Wunder get picked off in the top lane, another couple pickoffs in the mid lane, and then they do that thing where no one wants to lose more turrets, so they try and hold it odd man numbers, and then it just keeps getting worse and worse.
Yeah. Also, Bjergsen is gonna have finished his void staff pretty soon because of all the kills he just got donated. So, he picked up. So, what's called he can actually kill Vladimir, which is a huge issue for Splyce, because before all those kills, he would... Oh, damn.
That's gonna be a...
Sidestep on the clock tower.
He's good at sidestepping today. But yeah, basically, if he didn't pick up those kills, he would sit on like 1,000 less gold, if not even less. Like maybe like 1.5k less than he would be right now. And that's like half a void staff, even more than that. It's just like, this accelerates TSM so much that they can just group up and keep closing out the game, keep pressuring the towers, because they are almost 1 item ahead everywhere. So.
Right.
And basically just 1 item ahead mid, I should say. But, yeah.
And the really scary thing is that there's no one on Splyce who's like a great tank from like when they're not ahead. That's why it was so important for Aurelia to stay even or ahead, or for Vladimir to stay even or ahead. Now, Bjergsen can target anyone he really wants to. Here we just see Trashy get exploded. He's not a tank, and they're just going to take another turret here. I'm surprised Splyce is fighting this at all.
I'm surprised that Trashy didn't go for Abyssal Scepter or something else instead of Protobelt, because he keeps getting caught out by Bjergsen, and it's just like, I mean, if you are going to play that aggressive, just get some magic resistance, or just, I mean, swap out your boots for some Merc Threats or something, so you can at least use your repel and then get some damage off.
Yeah, this game's getting completely blown open.
Yeah. All in the last like 5 minutes. Like this is a whitewash now, and we're talking about like, is it the right idea to put all the eggs in the Bjergsen basket? Apparently yes, because then he'll go 9-1 and 5 and just kill your entire team.
I think for that, it's not really TSM being like, okay, we need Bjergsen to carry to win this. It's just what Bjergsen does by himself is, okay, he pushes up the Vlad. TSM knows it's going to happen. It's not the first time they play Syndra. They can roam around, so it's not necessarily being like, okay, let's try to make stuff happen with Bjergsen. It's basically just what the Syndra pick does, and it's what Splice should have anticipated before they even went into this game. They know that it's going to happen, but they still pick lanes where they're just going to get pushed up, and then they can TSM can dive with Rek'Sai and the Syndra. So I don't really like that too much from Splice.
Was the cannon open? I don't think I saw it banned. I was surprised.
Yeah, I think it was open.
Right, I think because they already had Elise and Vladimir, they were scared of becoming so magic damage heavy along with the Ezreal, but the Aurelia is just so all in and needs to basically trade heavily with the Gnar to be able to like win that lane. And when you don't have pressure mid and he's able to move around the map, it's so hard to play that way.
I mean, so much of this as well came from like the last, what, 3-4 fights where Splice just kind of ran into TSM, ran into the Syndra.
Yep.
Oh, they used Syndra ulti for that. They really wanted him dead.
I don't think resource management matters that much at this point in the game.
Oh my god, this looks like a solo key game. They have literally just ran up and died to TSM the last 10 minutes.
Is there anything that Splice can do, or is it open mid?
Yeah, stop dying. Like,
I mean, they can do that, but that's not going to win them the game. Yeah, it's so sad to watch this because I mean, Splice obviously they have a hard time coming back into the group and trying to qualify.
For me.
Yeah, but they can play spoilers to an A at least. Like,
I don't even think Splice played too bad or anything. They just started getting picked off, and then they kept getting picked off, and they're still getting picked off. It's like they played fine up until that point.
Yeah, I think the big problems came around just their decision making around mid. If Winner gets picked off in the side lane, I mean that can happen, but there's no reason for them to have had that series of plays in the mid lane where Kobe is just walked up with no turret up and just gets jumped on by Bjergsen, and then you see it just was that snowball where they kept trying to pick fights. I think that was really the key play that they had to avoid. Some of the other stuff is just going to happen over the course of the game. People make mistakes, and nothing's like game-breakingly bad until that.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to deny Syndra from getting those picks, especially when you have Jhin on your team too. They just have really good pick potential, but if Splice are able to get their items and then Vladimir to get on top of the Syndra and the Jhin, then they still have a chance to actually win a team fight, or at least make it even, or come a bit back into the game. It's hard to just outright win a team fight right now, but if they can get the Syndra and the Jhin, they might be able to stall a bit to get some more items.
Yeah, the problem is TSM is just never going to not be somewhat grouped up here. They don't care about trying to 1-3-1 or anything like that. They're just trying to stay together. And the Wonder trying to get onto Bjergsen, but not going to be enough.
Just going to give it a shot.
No, but this is really good. This is what Splice should be doing.
Oh. Yeah, now the super overextended.
They tried to get a pick with Aurelia, trying to like Q onto Syndra whenever she split off, and then Vladimir has to be there to back
like
up,
this.
which is good. But
well, this is going quite badly. I wonder if we have time for a Twitter question before the game ends. Creamy says, why do you think Protobelt has fallen out of favor for Vlad in favor of things like Rylai's, Zhonya's, and others, as he has picked up the Rylai's?
Personally, I am not a big fan of Protobelt on Vlad. I think it doesn't scale that well. It doesn't like impact the game as much as other items can. So if you just build towards being this late game monster, then and just build a lot of damage, then I think he's gonna have a much bigger impact than if he's to go Protobelt. And right now he's building Protobelt, so that's great.
I love Tilted.
I just don't think it does a lot on Vlad. Like if Vlad is on top of someone, they're going to die if he just builds regular damage items that scale into mid-late game. Like if he builds Rylai, if he builds even another Abyssal Scepter is really good against Syndra because she doesn't have any magic resistance, so he's gonna deal a bunch of damage to her. Just anything that deals damage is really good on Vlad. And Protobelt is not really a heavy AP item. It's just like an extra boost of burst of damage.
Right. I was always more on the no Protobelt train. If you're gonna go Ghost Flash and you're Vladimir, you don't really have a trouble getting into the fight. It's about how you play the fight, and that's why I always prefer the more not defensive options, but the ones that let you stay in a fight longer and impact it more, as Zhonya's and those kind of things that Frog was talking about. And there we see what happens when a Syndra gets out of control. 13-kill Bjergsen.
Oh,
That
and
happens.
5 TS from double lift build. Jeez.
From double lift as well.
Nice damage from Syndra there.
Ooh, boy.
What was it,
really
bro?
nice.
Oh, I can see it from over here.
32K?
Yeah, 32K.
Okay. What's the next
highest?
highest?
18K.
Yeah, Bjergsen did some work this game. Coming from Sencux's side, like, it just felt like everyone just dogpiled on his lane from his own team and just kept giving Syndra kills.
I mean, that's what happens in a couple of these matchups. You basically take the Vladimir to go, not basically even, but you're going to be down pressure, so you should stay up and farm to stay even, but it's basically on your team to hold on to whatever else Syndra's going to do, because Syndra can basically go for solo kills in lane often.